Well. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Trump's America, where the man who promised to drain the swamp is now drowning in his own contradictions. If you thought we'd seen peak chaos from this administration, think again, because recent events might just go down as the moment Donald Trump officially lost control of his own narrative. Let me paint you a picture. Here's a 79-year-old man, allegedly the most powerful person on earth, who's supposed to be making America great again, but instead he's making America sick, literally and figuratively. And before you Trump apologists start typing angry comments, let me be crystal clear. I'm about to break down exactly why your guy is having one of the worst periods of his political life, and why it's only going to get worse. First, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or should I say, the swollen elephant in the room. Our dear president has been diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency. Now, for those of you who don't speak medical, that's basically when your leg veins can't pump blood back to your heart properly. The result? Swollen ankles, bruised hands covered in makeup that doesn't match his spray tan, and a president who literally can't stand on his own 2 feet without medical intervention. The White House tried to spin this as common in people over 70, but here's what they're not telling you. This condition is often caused by prolonged sitting, being overweight, or, and this is the kicker, heart problems. Remember how Trump spent 4 years calling Joe Biden old and frail? Well, karma has entered the chat and she's wearing medical compression stockings. But the health crisis is just the appetizer. The main course is the Epstein files disaster that's eating Trump's administration alive from the inside. You know, the same Jeffrey Epstein that Trump once called a terrific guy, who likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. Yeah, that Jeffrey Epstein. Here's where it gets absolutely delicious. Trump promised. No, he didn't just promise, he campaigned on releasing the Epstein files. His base, those MAGA warriors who believe every conspiracy theory except the ones about their dear leader, they were salivating for these files. They wanted names, they wanted justice, they wanted heads to roll. What did they get instead? A 2-page memo from Attorney General Pam Bondi saying, "Oops, there's no client list, nothing to see here, move along." The reaction: MAGA world went nuclear. For the first time in Trump's political career, his own supporters are turning on him. Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, you know, the woman who thinks Jewish space lasers cause wildfires, even she's warning about significant reverberations in the MAGA movement. When Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks you've gone too far with the cover-ups, brother, you've got problems. According to multiple reports, Trump has been in what insiders describe as full panic mode. The man who claims to have the best temperament, who says he never gets rattled, has reportedly been raging privately about how the Epstein scandal is overshadowing his agenda. His agenda, as if gutting healthcare and enriching his billionaire buddies counts as governing. The panic is so bad that FBI sources reportedly confirm they were ordered to frantically search through 300,000 pages of Epstein files, looking for any mention of Trump's name. One former FBI analyst described it as full panic mode, with agents allegedly being told first to redact nothing, then to mark victim names, then to document every single time Trump was mentioned in a spreadsheet. You don't conduct that kind of desperate search unless you're terrified of what might be found. And let's talk about the health scare that reportedly triggered some of this recent turmoil. Photos from the FIFA World Cup final showed Trump with visibly swollen ankles and bruised hands caked in makeup. The internet went wild with speculation. Was he having heart problems? Kidney failure? The White House was forced to release medical information they'd apparently been withholding. Dr. Sean Barbabella's letter tried to reassure us that Trump is in excellent health, but medical experts aren't buying it. Cardiologist Dr. Bernard Ashby told CNN that chronic venous insufficiency can be related to heart failure or sleep apnea. The question isn't whether Trump has a minor vein problem, it's what's causing it. And why did this supposedly healthy president need comprehensive vascular studies, echocardiograms, and urgent medical evaluations if everything was fine? The timing seems suspicious as hell. Trump's been dealing with visible swelling for weeks, according to reports. But the White House only admitted it after those FIFA photos went viral. They were apparently hoping nobody would notice their leader couldn't stand up without his ankles looking like balloons. But the medical crisis pales in comparison to the political crisis. Reports indicate it's been weeks of Trump's administration being consumed by the Epstein scandal, and their deflection tactics are getting increasingly desperate. They released FBI files on Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, launched investigations into James Comey, and even had Tulsi Gabbard accuse Barack Obama of treason. Yes, treason. All apparently in desperate attempts to change the subject from Jeffrey Epstein. None of it worked, according to multiple sources. The story reportedly has its own momentum now, and Trump can't control it. For a man whose entire political brand is built on controlling the narrative, this is allegedly his worst nightmare come true. He's used to being the one spreading conspiracy theories, not being the victim of them. The irony is absolutely beautiful. Trump built his movement on telling his supporters that the deep state was hiding the truth from them. He promised to expose all the corrupt elites and their dirty secrets. But when his supporters demanded he expose those same dirty secrets about Epstein, suddenly Trump became the one saying, "Nothing to see here, move along." Senator Dick Durbin's whistleblower sources reportedly revealed that nearly 1,000 FBI personnel were assigned to review the Epstein files, specifically looking for Trump mentions. That's not the behavior of an administration with nothing to hide. That's reportedly the behavior of an administration in absolute panic about what those files might contain. The Wall Street Journal reported that Trump was briefed by Attorney General Bondi in May that his name appears multiple times in the Epstein investigation files. Multiple times. When reporters asked if he'd been briefed about his name being in the files, Trump reportedly said no. But according to his own Justice Department, he was told about this months ago. So here we allegedly have a president who's medically compromised, politically panicked, and caught in apparent contradictions about his knowledge of his own appearance in a federal investigation. The man who promised to drain the swamp is now reportedly drowning in it. The MAGA revolt appears to be real, and it's spectacular. Conservative influencers who've been loyal Trump soldiers for years are reportedly now calling for Attorney General Bondi to be fired. At the Student Action Summit in Tampa, thousands of Trump supporters were reportedly chanting for answers about the Epstein files. When asked to choose between Bondi and FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino, the crowd reportedly chose Bongino, a clear rejection of Trump's hand-picked Attorney General. This isn't some liberal media conspiracy. This is reportedly Trump's own base, the people who voted for him, the people who believe in him finally saying, enough is enough when it comes to covering up for Jeffrey Epstein. A Reuters poll found that 69% of Americans believe the government is hiding information about Epstein's clients, including 62% of Republicans. That's Trump's own voters demanding answers he reportedly refuses to provide. The health issues make everything worse because they allegedly feed into the perception that Trump is losing control. Here's a man who spent years mocking Joe Biden's age and mental fitness, but now he apparently can barely stand at a soccer game without visible medical problems. The makeup-covered bruises on his hands from frequent handshaking. Really, that's reportedly the best excuse they could come up with? Chronic venous insufficiency isn't just about swollen legs. It's about reduced blood flow, increased pressure on the cardiovascular system, and potential complications including heart failure. For a 79-year-old man with a documented history of poor diet and limited exercise, this is potentially a serious red flag. But instead of being transparent about the president's health, they're allegedly covering it up, just like they're covering up the Epstein files. According to the Washington Post, the panic reportedly reached fever pitch when Trump became increasingly frustrated with his administration's handling of the Epstein crisis. He's reportedly concerned the scandal is overshadowing his agenda and dominating news cycles. Multiple sources described an administration without a clear strategy, apparently hoping Americans would just forget about Jeffrey Epstein and move on. But here's what Trump apparently doesn't understand. His supporters didn't sign up to cover up for Jeffrey Epstein. They signed up to drain the swamp, to expose the corrupt elites, to get answers about government cover-ups. When Trump allegedly became the one doing the covering up, he reportedly broke faith with the very people who put him in power. The administration's desperation is allegedly showing in their increasingly wild distraction attempts. Accusing Barack Obama of treason? Really? Having the director of national intelligence hold a press conference to relitigate 2016 Russian interference? This reportedly isn't governing, this is flailing. And through it all, Trump's health continues to raise questions. The chronic venous insufficiency diagnosis reportedly explains why he's been looking increasingly frail, why his stamina seems diminished, why those photos from the World Cup final showed a man who looked far older than his years. The presidency is a young man's job, and Trump is reportedly proving he's no longer up for it. The medical experts aren't convinced by the White House's rosy health reports. Dr. Bernard Ashby pointed out that chronic venous insufficiency can indicate underlying heart problems or sleep apnea. The comprehensive testing Trump underwent, including echocardiograms and vascular studies, suggests his doctors are allegedly worried about more serious conditions. But Trump's team is reportedly spinning this as routine care for a common condition in elderly people. Elderly people. They're finally admitting what we've all known. Trump is old, he's sick, and he's allegedly struggling to handle the demands of the presidency. The Epstein scandal reportedly keeps getting worse because Trump can't stop contradicting himself. First, he promised to release all the files. Then his Justice Department said there were no more files to release. Then they said they were seeking grand jury testimony. Then reports emerged that Trump knew his name was in the files months before he claimed ignorance. Each new revelation reportedly makes Trump look more like the swamp creatures he promised to drain. The man who built his career on conspiracy theories is now allegedly the subject of the biggest conspiracy theory in American politics. What did he know about Jeffrey Epstein? When did he know it? And why is he working so hard to keep it secret? Recent events reportedly represent a perfect storm of Trump's worst instincts colliding with reality. His health is raising questions, his apparent contradictions are catching up to him, and his own supporters are finally demanding the transparency he's always promised, but allegedly never delivered. The chronic venous insufficiency isn't just a medical condition, it's reportedly a metaphor for Trump's entire presidency. Just like his damaged leg veins can't pump blood back to his heart, his damaged administration allegedly can't pump credibility back to his base. The system is reportedly failing, pressure is building, and without treatment things are going to get much worse. For a man who spent his entire career projecting strength, recent events reportedly showed us weakness, swollen ankles, bruised hands, desperate cover-ups, and a base in revolt. This reportedly isn't making America great again. This is making America sick of the lies, the cover-ups, and the corruption. The medical diagnosis reportedly explains so much about Trump's recent behavior. The irritability, the desperate attempts to control the narrative, the increasing isolation from even his closest allies. When you're dealing with cardiovascular issues that affect blood flow to your brain, your judgment reportedly suffers. Your decision-making deteriorates. Your ability to handle stress diminishes. And Trump is allegedly under more stress than any president in modern history, not from foreign threats or economic crises, but from his own supporters demanding answers he can't or won't provide. The Epstein files have reportedly created the first real schism in the MAGA movement, and Trump has no idea how to heal it. The panic in Trump world is reportedly palpable. Sources describe heated arguments between Attorney General Bondi and FBI Deputy Director Bongino. They describe an administration where nobody knows what to do about a scandal that won't go away. They describe a president who's reportedly rage-posting about his own supporters, calling them weaklings and troublemakers for demanding the transparency he promised. This is reportedly what happens when the chickens come home to roost. Trump spent years telling his supporters not to trust the government, to demand full transparency, to never accept official explanations at face value. Now those same supporters are applying those standards to Trump himself, and he reportedly doesn't like it one bit. The health crisis reportedly adds urgency to everything. A president with chronic venous insufficiency, potential heart problems, and visible cognitive strain is reportedly not equipped to handle the political crisis engulfing his administration. The makeup-covered bruises suggest either a bleeding disorder or medication side effects that the White House isn't disclosing. Dr. Chelsea Dorsey from the University of Chicago explained that chronic venous insufficiency can cause not just swelling and discoloration, but fatigue, aching, and a feeling of heaviness in the legs. For a president who needs to project energy and stamina, these symptoms are reportedly politically devastating. The timing of recent revelations isn't coincidental. The White House reportedly waited until the Epstein scandal had consumed news cycles for weeks before admitting Trump had serious medical issues. They were apparently hoping to bury the health story under the political crisis, But instead, they've created a perfect storm of weakness, dishonesty, and cover-ups. Every attempt to change the subject has reportedly backfired spectacularly. The Martin Luther King Jr. files? Nobody cared. The James Comey investigation? Old news. The Barack Obama treason accusations? So desperate it made Trump look unhinged. Nothing is reportedly working because the American people, including Trump's own supporters, finally see through the manipulation. The medical condition reportedly explains Trump's increasingly erratic behavior. The frequent contradictions, the inability to stay on message, the desperate attempts to distract from his own scandals. When your cardiovascular system is compromised, when blood isn't flowing properly to your brain, cognitive function suffers, decision-making deteriorates, impulse control diminishes. We're reportedly watching a president in medical and political decline, surrounded by advisors who are more interested in covering up problems than solving them. The Epstein scandal has reportedly revealed the moral bankruptcy at the heart of the Trump administration, while the health crisis has revealed the physical bankruptcy of Trump himself. Recent events reportedly mark the beginning of the end for this presidency, not because of impeachment or legal challenges, but because Trump has finally lost control of his own story. The master manipulator has reportedly been outmaneuvered by his own lies. The conspiracy theorist has become the subject of conspiracy theories he can't control. His base is reportedly in revolt, his health is raising questions, and his administration is in panic mode. The man who promised to make America great again apparently can't even make his own legs work properly. The president who claimed to have the best health, the best stamina, the best everything, is now taking aspirin for cardiovascular problems and wearing compression stockings for swollen ankles. This is reportedly what happens when lies catch up to reality, when decades of corruption and cover-ups finally meet an informed public that won't accept excuses anymore. When a president who built his career on projection finally has to confront his own weaknesses. The chronic venous insufficiency diagnosis is reportedly just the beginning. If Trump's leg veins are failing, what does that say about his heart, his brain, his ability to handle the stress of governing? Medical experts are asking these questions, but the White House isn't providing answers. The Epstein scandal reportedly continues to metastasize because Trump can't provide a credible explanation for his administration's behavior. Why did they promise to release files they never intended to release? Why did they claim there was no client list when they clearly hadn't finished reviewing all the evidence? Why did Trump claim ignorance about his name being in the files when his own attorney general had reportedly briefed him months earlier? Each lie reportedly requires more lies to sustain it. Each cover-up requires more cover-ups to protect it. Eventually, the whole structure collapses under its own weight, and that's exactly what we're reportedly seeing now. The medical diagnosis reportedly provides the perfect metaphor. Trump's political circulation is as compromised as his physical circulation. Information isn't flowing properly. Pressure is building in all the wrong places. The system is breaking down, and no amount of makeup can cover up the damage. Recent events reportedly represent a turning point in American politics. The moment when Trump's own supporters finally said enough is enough. The moment when even the most loyal MAGA warriors realized they'd been lied to about Jeffrey Epstein. The moment when the emperor's new clothes were revealed to be compression stockings and concealer. So here's my challenge to every Trump supporter still defending this chaos. At what point do you demand better? At what point do you hold your guy to the same standards you'd hold any other politician? At what point do you admit that maybe, just maybe, the man you trusted to drain the swamp has been swimming in it all along? The answer to that question will determine not just Trump's political future, but the future of American democracy itself. Because if we can't agree that presidents shouldn't cover up for Jeffrey Epstein, if we can't agree that health transparency matters, if we can't agree that lying to your own supporters is wrong, then we've lost more than just an election. We've lost our moral compass. Recent events reportedly showed us a president in medical crisis, political crisis, and moral crisis, all at the same time. The man who promised to make America great again is making America sick, literally, with his health cover-ups and medical secrecy, and figuratively, with his lies about Jeffrey Epstein and his attacks on his own supporters. This is your president, America. This is the man you're supposed to trust with nuclear weapons and national security. A 79-year-old with cardiovascular problems, cognitive decline, and a compulsive need to cover up anything that makes him look bad. This is reportedly what happens when celebrity culture meets political power, and neither accountability nor shame exist to provide guardrails. The chronic venous insufficiency diagnosis is serious, but it's not fatal. What might be fatal to Trump's presidency is the chronic credibility insufficiency that's been exposed by his handling of the Epstein files. Trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild, and Trump has reportedly broken faith with the very people who put him in power. The panic we're reportedly seeing isn't just about one scandal or one health scare. It's about the dawning realization that Trump never intended to be the president his supporters thought they were electing. He was always going to protect the powerful, cover up for the corrupt, and put his own interests above those of the American people. Recent events will reportedly be remembered as the day the Trump myth finally died. Not in liberal media or Democratic talking points, but in the hearts and minds of his own supporters who finally saw him for what he really is, just another corrupt politician who will say anything to stay in power. The swollen ankles are just the symptom. The real disease is the moral rot that's been eating away at this administration from day one. And unlike chronic venous insufficiency, that condition might actually be terminal. So there you have it, folks. Total chaos, medical secrecy, political panic, and a base in revolt. Recent events. The day Donald Trump's presidency jumped the shark while wearing compression stockings and concealer. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to subscribe for more real talk about what's really happening in Trump's America. Share this with anyone who still thinks this administration has things under control. And remember, in a democracy, we get the government we deserve, but we also get the government we demand. It's time to demand better. It's time to demand transparency. It's time to demand a president who doesn't panic when his own supporters ask for the truth. The chronic venous insufficiency will get worse without treatment. The Epstein scandal will get worse without transparency. And Trump's presidency will get worse without accountability. Recent events were just the beginning. Buckle up, America. This is going to be a bumpy ride.